Oops. I started a second early. That's okay. Hey, we're here 1 second early. I mean, technically I'm like 20 minutes late, but don't worry about that. Live on a Tuesday. Happy to be here. I feel like it's going to be a good week and I don't know why. I probably shouldn't feel that way. But everything's working. Chat, mic, visual. I'm happy with it. Let's go. We're here today to talk about a couple of interesting articles that I've noticed popping up. One indicating that we, I guess, shouldn't be using the phrase toxic masculinity because it's hurting men's feelings. Others talking more so about, you know how I feel about the loneliness epidemic, but more nuanced takes about how it's actually more of a class issue than a gender issue, which I think is interesting. And then I'm also just throwing in like Tom Holland's comments on the quote unquote male loneliness epidemic, because I actually think he gave a really good answer when he was asked about the new Spider-Man movie and it possibly tackling these themes. So yeah, just a lot of garbage today, but I thought it was entertaining. I'd love to go over it with you today. I'm keeping it light, chat. I will be quite honest with you. I mean, even though technically this isn't really light at all because it's involving a massive societal issue, but light insofar as I don't know if you've noticed, but there's just a bunch of really incredibly dark things happening. So I'm like buffering a little bit. I really am. Someone said, wait, before we get into this, D'Angelo, can you confirm if you're wearing the same shirt every day or do you have multiples of the same? Multiples of the same for sure. I don't even think I could like make myself wear the exact same shirt multiple times in a day or like multiple times in a row for however many. I guess I would have to like wash it every other day, but then I just feel like that would be bad for its longevity. But yeah, I got hella of these stay cold. I forget what exactly the name of this shirt is, but yeah, anytime I commit to an outfit on stream, I'm gonna be buying copies of it. I've got to. Someone said today's my brother's birthday. Happy birthday to everybody who was born today a long time ago. Glad you're here. Y'all know my birthday's coming up in a mere 11 days, so don't know what I'm gonna do about that. Nothing, probably. Hopefully. Someone said, I'm trying to say it's misandry affecting men because of the systemic issues. I'll shut up now. Yeah, okay, here's the thing. Misandry as an idea coming from women, I'm going to be honest, I don't believe in it. But I think actually hatred of men as an actual thing from men is a real thing. Actually, I firmly believe in misandry as a function of patriarchy that's currently harming a lot of us. But we're going to get into all of that. Today's topic is going to be very viewer participation, where I'm looking forward to getting you guys' takes on all of these things. I really am. Also, if you're new to the stream and you're wondering what's going on, hi. The first 30 minutes or so are exactly what you're getting now, which is literally just the obsession about any and everything. And then around the 30-minute mark, that's when we get into today's topic, all of this gender quote-unquote war nonsense. It's absolutely not war. Come on, bro. Let's go. Someone said misandry isn't the largest contributor to men's issues. Men are the largest contributor to men's issues. I feel like I have like literally no hot takes today. They're just all pretty obvious, but I guess it still needs to be said when Men's Journal is running articles literally telling us that we shouldn't be saying toxic masculinity because it might hurt men's feelings. And I don't know. I'm also kind of getting into some of these weird like think tanks, a lot of times weird Christian think tanks that are doing a lot of the quote unquote research behind the supposed epidemic and pulling these numbers and pulling these men. And a lot of times these places will directly say in their like their about sections, like, yeah, we are a pro-natalist group whose idea is to try to get more people to have children. And I'm like, how can y'all not see that this is an agenda? Obviously. Y'all want to talk about agendas, that's an agenda. It's not an LGBT agenda. What about this weird agenda to try to trick people into having more children by guilting women into feeling like they're the problem? And it's just so weird, man. It's so weird. Okay, wait, this is so interesting. Someone said, I do think misandry exists because my mom literally asked me recently, did you know men actually feel things and can experience trauma? And like, yes, you have sons. See, the thing is, I would argue, even though I know some people might disagree with me really heavy on this, but what your mom was expressing in that moment was low-key misogyny. Now here's the part where I feel like I'm not like a smart enough person to explain this, or like to put it more accurately, it would just be a function of a misogynistic patriarchy is what leads us to believe that men are apparently incapable of feeling feelings or expressing things or trauma or whatever. Like, this is all one thing. It's not really a both sides type of thing is how I feel. But yeah, sadly, I think a lot of people do have actually pretty inaccurate views on men or whatever, but it's not because society as a whole is not catered towards men. Blah, 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 blah. Someone says rooted in gender norms. Yeah, I'm also going to try to get into that today, and I don't know how hard I want to go into that direction. I've been toying with the idea all morning of like, how much do I just want to say that I don't even believe in masculinity at all? I know people are going to get mad at me, but like, I'm just like, I'm sorry. I know what it means as a social construct, obviously, and maybe this is just me being too neurodivergent or too non-binary or something, but I am also a man, and I'm not less of a man just because I'm non-binary. I identify as both. None of this is real in the first place, and I feel like that's why the fact that we are still trying to force this conversation and make fetch happen does my head in so much, because what are we even aspiring to? There's no platonic ideal of manhood that we as men should be even entertaining. That's literally all nonsense. I do truly believe everybody should just try to be a good person. Obviously, we can point to things that are considered to be masculine by society, but I think people confuse that with, oh, then these things must actually be masculine, and that's simply not true. It really isn't. Or at least that's how I feel. Someone said the thought of gender performativity and gender theory makes me think of Judith Butler, and I tweak out at the University of Flashbacks. Yeah, if anybody's watching this and you actually have any sort of gender studies background, you're probably going to cringe really hard at how uneducated I am. But I just come into this as just a guy with an experience of society. I said the other day, when the Joker lived in a society, I felt that. I really did. I definitely did. Someone said anything people will describe as positively masculine are traits anyone are capable of. See, all of these good takes that you have, y'all need to, I mean, you can say them now, but you also need to bring these back up when I start recording later, because I want all of this in the video, truly. Someone said, hey guys, just joined in, I missed the topic. Nah, we're just gearing up. We're just shooting the breeze. Someone said, as an agender person, I don't understand how gender even exists. Yeah, it'd be like that. It truly be like that. Oh man. Someone said, just a little dude. I'm just a dude. I'm just some guy. Someone said, aren't we all jokers living in a society? That's real, actually. That's real. If I was 14, I would make that my bio. At the end of the day, we're all just... No, why am I lying? I would make that my bio today if I did bios. I'm just not a bio person. Someone said, I thought D'Angelo might talk about the death of Jason Arde. I talked about that at length last stream in the beginning or the end, so you could go there if you want to see that. But of course, it's unfortunate. Someone said, oh yeah, you're live. Yes, I am. I'm excited. I am. Oh, someone said gender only exists politically. Okay, see, we're getting into takes that are too big brain for me. Like, not that I disagree with you in any meaningful way. I'm just like, I don't know how to talk about these things because I am stupid. But that's why I'm excited to do my best anyway. I'm probably not going to say everything correctly in this stream, but it's more fun to talk about it. Someone says, I feel like gender is important to understand though because it affects a lot. Yeah, that you would have to understand how it's like used against people. I'm not saying it's not a thing as in we should move past it. Like, if I can compare it to another thing, it's kind of like when people say, I don't see color. That's not an acceptable answer currently. Because regardless of whether you see color or you perceive race in other people or not, it doesn't change the fact that this has been baked into society on a level that is currently oppressing so many people. You have to be aware of these things, or it's really easy for you to accidentally play along with these social scripts and wind up oppressing other people in your ignorance. That's how I feel currently about gender, where like I would vastly prefer if we could actually just stop pretending, but we're not there yet. And as long as we do literally live in a patriarchal society, I do kind of have to acknowledge it is obviously a thing that affects people pretty greatly. But I want to fast forward. I want to fast forward to the part where we don't have to do this anymore because we're not divvying people up in a goofy way like this. I just want to go. Please take me there. Someone said, I like to think of gender in a healthy way as is a shorthand to a set of societal expectations. It's made up but useful to communicate with each other. Yeah, it's a thing insofar as we've made it a thing, is how I feel. If anybody asks me to explain my stance on that, I don't think you're going to get much better than that. Someone said sometimes people get too woke, they circle back to being racist. Robin DiAngelo, for example, literally said every time she sees a black person, she wants to tell them she's one of the good ones. Okay, is that a direct quote? Because that's crazy. That's wild as hell. Also, I got really scared when I read that because my name is DiAngelo and I know it's spelled differently, but I thought for a second that comment was saying that I got too woke and circled back into being racist. And I was like, wait, what did I say? Wait, where? I don't think I said anything wrong. Oh, this is interesting. Someone in chat said, I'm a man, but I genuinely think I'm non-binary. I don't even like attribute myself to any gender. I just see myself as as I am. I remember a previous stream, you kind of opened my eyes about being non-binary. I'm here to tell you, forget the stream for a second, person to person, if you genuinely think you're non-binary, that's actually all you need. You don't gotta wait for the life affirming event or for that last puzzle piece. That's a pretty strong feeling. And if it's a term you're comfortable with using, like, you don't gotta wait for no type of permission. That's what I realized at one point, because I kept waiting to feel non-binary enough and it never happened. And then I realized, oh, I don't think people who are not non-binary sit around waiting to feel non-binary enough. I think maybe that's just a function of me being non-binary. So just throwing that out there. I'm happy if anything I said led you down that path. And also, you could not be as well. It's not the end of the world if you try something on and you're like, wait a second, this doesn't represent me. And you could just be who you are. It really, really is. Some say you don't got to prove it to anybody. You literally don't have to prove it to nobody at all. Someone said, I feel the same way about being ace. Yeah, same thing. If it's like, well, I don't know why I just have such an ace vibe sometimes. That's enough. You don't got to take a test. You don't got to score higher. You don't have to be this ace to ride this ride. Just look into some of the sub labels and see if any of those really represent you, you know? But I would say probably the number one thing that I would consider common across almost all ace identities that every single ace person I've ever spoken to has related to. You might be ace if the way almost every other person in the entire world kind of views sexuality, or sex rather, and relationships. If that has always been baffling to you and made you feel like you were an alien, it's possible maybe some of these ace identities might speak a little more accurately to your experience than the typical allosexual experience. That's what was happening to me for like on God 20 years. Anytime anybody would talk about, you know, how obviously everybody has these same feelings and stuff, and I was always there, like I was on the bench, like, we do? You guys are getting paid? That's how I felt, honestly. I was so confused by what everybody was talking about, and I thought I was genuinely missing something, but I wasn't. I was just different. I really, really was. Someone said, I also recently learned ACE is a spectrum, which really helped me identify that way. For me, I've always just felt like an alien. Yes, I love the term ACE spec because it's so fun to say, and that's probably the number one term I would use to describe myself. It's great. It's fantastic. Someone said everything is, it's all the spectrum. You're never not ace enough. There's no set metric. Literally, on God, like we not finna kick you out. Well, I mean, if you acting a fool, we'll tell you. But like the average person, we're not gonna jump you. I swear to God. I promise you. Blah 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 blah. Someone said, you know what? I'm a woman, but I also literally don't care. Like being a woman has the same meaning as having brown hair to me personally. I think a lot of people are there, but I want to bring up one of my favorite terms that I learned here on this stream because I was taking a BuzzFeed quiz about pride flags, and they showed me one, and I was like, wait, this is a thing that exists. And since then, that was a couple months ago, I've done extensive research into this, as in I just Googled a bunch of stuff and read a bunch of posts, and I now realize this is some very explanatory stuff. This, you might not relate to this might just be a me thing, but I was like, oh my God, I didn't know this was a real thing. You may be gender apathetic. Oh God, what happened to, like, there used to be like a wiki that had a whole explanation of what this meant. Okay, here we go. Yeah. So you may see a lot of flags and fun stuff like that. Don't worry about that. Just listen to this. If you are apathetic towards your entire gender identity and you don't really care what gender you come across as, you might want to start looking into this a little bit, because I did come to realize after the fact, like, oh, it was always apathy for me. Actually, you know what's really funny? The only time I've ever felt, or the only time I ever feel like genuinely dysphoric, is when people are forcing me to care a lot about my gender. Like, actually, I kind of start feeling really, really like stuck and uncomfortable when I'm like forced to identify as anything, or forced to care, because I'm just like, that's not me. That's genuinely not me. I don't know how to explain this. But yeah, there's so many different terms that could represent you. You know what I mean? It's very interesting. And at the end of the day, they're literally just words. It doesn't really matter that much, but it could still be really helpful to use these words to then find other people talking about similar experiences. And then you find out, like, oh, I wasn't crazy or broken. I just was experiencing this thing that some people gave a name to. It's fantastic. It's great. I love it. Someone said, does anybody feel like they fluctuate between being completely ace and another identity? I feel, you said it has confused me because I feel nothing most of the time, but I don't know if it's societal pressure that's low-key gaslighting me. That could genuinely just still mean you're ace, actually. That's the really fun thing about that, is like, you could be ace 95% of the time, and then 5% of the time you may have other experiences which you feel like are contradicting you, but they're not contradicting you. It could just still be part of your ace experience, because again, it is a spectrum. It's not a 100% thing. Or you could be something else. That's the fun thing about that. But yeah, you're very much like, don't worry if any part of the way that you feel seems to contradict the thing that you largely identify with. You can't invalidate yourself. So don't let your dreams be dreams. Don't invalidate yourself. It's not a thing. Don't worry. You're still welcome here. It's all good. Someone said that's that spectrum doing spectrum things. Yeah, a spectrum is such a helpful way of understanding things, as opposed to a binary for me personally. And then that's also why I have my number one most unpopular opinion of all time. which I know that people disagree with really strongly, but I think they disagree with it because they don't know what I mean when I say this. I kind of feel like objectively everyone has a non-binary experience with gender because the binary simply isn't a thing that exists. I'm not saying that every person is non-binary. Some people identify very strongly with one thing, some people identify very strongly with another thing. These could be considered binary genders, but I also just personally believe that even having a binary gender is obviously still an expression of how actually gender is not binary because the very fact that one person could have this experience and one person could have another experience while everyone is still a person. I don't know, nobody ever wants to hear that because they're like, no, I'm a insert this, I'm a man, I'm like, I'm literally not saying you're not. I'm not trying to take it away from you. I just I'll give a stronger example of what I mean, because a lot of people will ask me about like, how are you a non-binary man? What does that mean? And what I can't get them to sometimes understand is like, man is not a binary gender. That's how it's possible for me to be a non-binary man, because like those aren't contradictory. Being a man doesn't actually mean I've aligned myself in any meaningful way with only one side and that I can't have or be other things, which I absolutely am those other things simultaneously. And I feel like if people would just like even decouple the quote unquote binary genders from the binary, finally I feel like all of this would start making more sense to the world. But alas, what do I know? I am just some guy. Literally just some guy. Someone said, I'm sure that I'm a woman, but I think I would look dope if I was a man. Just saying, you probably would. Try it out. You know, there's no gatekeepers there. Reading chat. Someone said, when did you realize you were non-binary? When did I attach the word non-binary to my experience? I would say when I, like in my early 20s going into solidifying in my mid 20s. But like, when did I realize I was something? The thing that I now know is non-binary. I've pretty much, I don't want to say always known, but I have genuinely always just felt it. I don't know what to tell you, bro. Like when I was a kid, I didn't have access to an environment in which I would have heard that word ever. But that didn't stop 4-year-old me from watching Transformers and being like, why do I relate to the Transformers more than the humans? I don't understand. Now I understand. Now it makes perfect sense. It really, really does. So annoying. And when I say annoying, I just mean the fact that like I was living in confusion for so long because I didn't realize there were simple explanations. Some say, how far into the live are we? We're 27 minutes and 54 seconds in, meaning I will be starting in approximately 2 minutes. And we will get into this toxic masculinity garbage. So stupid. Wow, that is a question that I can't answer, but you should all answer it if you want to. Someone says, I have a question I'm hesitant to ask. Do any other AFABs on the NBA gender apathy spectrum feel dysphoric on their monthlies? I think this is my biggest sign, but I don't know. Hey, if you've got that experience, answer that person in the chat. I don't have the equipment, but that's a great question. It's a great question. Someone said, I love dresses when I was younger and I hate them. I feel fake, to be honest. Well, I mean, I change my aesthetic 5 times a day. That's also valid regardless. Dresses are just not it for you right now, but then maybe someday you'll fall back into it. I do this all the time. Oh, there you go, chatter. People are answering you. I see a lot of people saying yes. So if that's useful information, take it. Do with it what you will. Reading chat. Someone said it's so good to be around cool folks. It's been a tough day. I feel the same way whenever I'm live because honestly, I have been having a collection of tough days. I'm happy with my job, which I know makes me very lucky. I'm insanely just beyond privileged to have a job that I enjoy. So for me, it's not my job that's the problem, but everything else has been a problem. And people have been so anyways, yeah, I like the fact that here I don't have to worry about all of that. Hey, fantastic. It's great. Someone said 100%. I knew I was on the NBA gender spectrum as a child. I just didn't have a word for it when I was small. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. I started writing sorry, this is really cringe. I was trying to do like a little creative fiction essay, or no, I was trying to do like a little creative nonfiction essay. I don't know if creative nonfiction is a thing, where I was going to write this like really eloquently and then share it with you all, and you were all going to be like, oh my gosh, D'Angelo, like you're such a good writer. But then I forgot to finish it, so I'll just tell you what my thesis was. I genuinely believe that the majority of the reading I did as a child was me inadvertently trying to find a paragraph that would explain to the people around me what I actually was. I always think back about reading being my hyperfixation, and me as a kid just like voraciously trying my best to internalize all of these other identities that I was reading in books. And I was learning like, oh, what it's like to be this kind of person, what it's like to be this kind of person. Oh, this character's a girl, this character's that. And I think someday I would have been really happy if I could just find a paragraph in a book that was like, this character is non-binary, and then my entire world would have exploded. I could have held it up to my parents and been like, read this paragraph right here, and everything that has been confusing you will suddenly make sense and we can all be happy. But that didn't happen because I didn't have that kind of representation when I was younger, and that's okay. That's why I just try to be myself currently with no impositions. But yeah, that was a toughie. It really, really was. Someone said trying to explain myself to people was very much my childhood hyperfixation. It really be like that. What can you do? Anyways, someone said words are so easy to use but so hard to find. Whoever said that was cooking. I feel... Also, hi, Lithuanium. So it's been a while. I feel like this is a great time to get started with the topic. Le topic. That's not French at all. That was actually probably offensive. If you speak French, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it. I was hacked and I was a different person when I said that. I'm going to go ahead and pull up my outline, and we're going to dive right into, well, this nonsense, frankly. Oh, wait a second. Before we get into that, actually, I don't even know if I want to mention. No, I'm going to mention this. Can I talk a little bit about the Drew follow thing? Because I won't say like people have been asking me to talk about this, but more than one person has mentioned this. I'm going to go ahead and tell you what my take is on this, and then you guys let me know if you agree. There's this backlash, or this is a can of worms, but basically a resurfaced podcast clip from Drew Afollow's podcast, in which she was talking to ER Fightmaster, who I believe is non-binary and uses they them pronouns. Went viral. Excuse me, I'm literally dying over here. Because it was a discussion about let me just read what it said. Trans women having a, quote, more beautiful understanding of womanhood because it was not, I guess, rooted in like a turf-like false view of what womanhood actually is. And I saw so much discussion about this from so many people on the internet, even though I think a lot of things are happening there at once. I just would like to say, this is an example of the kind of situation I feel like it makes the most sense for me to sit out. I mean, I could give you like a really weak personal opinion if I don't think anybody involved here was trying to say anything horrible, or that I guess I can understand where Fightmaster was coming from when they said that. But as for this actual idea that the internet needs yet another non-trans woman or just non-woman chiming in on this discourse with my crusty opinion, I'm pretty much good on that. I think if you want to know about this, you should watch Cat Black's video because she had a lot to say about this and broke down exactly why obviously this verbiage was jarring. And I learned a lot from that. But like, baby, I am a man. And I feel like there are absolutely times online where sometimes I will just look at discourse and I'll just be like, I am not helping by dropping like another like diving into the pool and splashing everything all over the place. And it's like, yes, now come listen to my opinion on this. This isn't my experience. And I think that people have already covered this in a great, amazing way. So if that's a little bit of internet controversy that you want to dive into, go to Cat Black's channel. That's BLAQUE, and let her tell you all about that one. I guess this is just a soft PSA of me saying there are other YouTubers. As you know, obviously, many of you are fans of Cat Black, as I am. But yeah, maybe y'all don't y'all got that one. I think I think y'all so Gucci with that one personally. Every now and then I'm just like, what could I possibly have to contribute to this? I don't know. I don't think I just think it's gonna be bad. All right, I'm going to stream. Someone said, have you met Cat? I have never met Cat Black. She don't know me. I'm not trying to be one of those YouTubers where I'm like, oh yes, my close friend Cat Black. She ain't never met me. I don't really know if she knows I exist, but I'm a big fan. And I think she does really, really great stuff. And the body of work, bro, like literally she has so many videos. They're so good. She's been grinding. I actually feel like she could be considered an OG for sure. Do we agree with that, chat? Is Cat Black an OG? Hold on, I need to go to her channel and see about this. I swear to God, she's definitely been uploading for longer than I have. I wouldn't call myself an OG by any means, but like, oldest. 13 years ago? Yeah. 11 years ago, she was out here on this website talking to y'all about blackface. Cat Black is 100% a YouTube OG legend GOAT, in my opinion. One of the very few people I would literally ever vouch for, because people are so stupid. And I will say, oh, this person's great, and then they'll turn around and do something horrible, but she's had time. She really, really has. Anyways, I am going to go ahead and pull open my... Okay, so everything's good. Second journal. I'm going to go ahead and... Someone said Cat OG is the... Or Cat Black is the OG. FYM. You're right. All right. Start recording. 3, 2, 1, go. Everybody say hi. I hit record. You guys are on TV. I mean, you might already be on TV if some of you are watching the stream on your TV. But yeah, say hi. Also, I'm going to mention Tom Holland, and it's not going to make sense to any of you, but I'm going to make it make sense later. Don't worry. This is not an anti-Tom Holland video. I'm not trying to clickbait you with him in the thumbnail. He's there because he said something I actually agree with quite strongly. So just throwing that out there. He was like the most famous person in the story, hence why I slapped him up there. But yes, we are here to, unfortunately, talk about the male skill issue. The male loneliness epidemic that for some reason publications like Men's Journal are still trying to make happen. Very much trying to make fetch happen. But instead of tired, cold takes on this, I also kind of wanted to look into a much more insightful article about what the actual problem is with loneliness in America, or in the world, in modern society. Hint, it's more of a class problem than a gender problem. And then lastly, I thought we could kind of pull back the wool on some of these weird, obviously right-wing Christian think tanks that are like pushing a lot of this, oh man, it's so bad, epidemic nonsense, because really these people are unhinged and should be called out as such. Also, I'm going to take maybe 30 seconds to talk about Andrew Tate. I just feel like the smaller dose I get of this person, the better. Okay, let's go. That was great. I liked that intro. So I'm gonna be honest, the entire concept for this video was called this article popping up on my feed a few days ago and me being rage baited. Sometimes you get, I don't know, excuse me, deep thought or like a key core idea, but today I'm just mad actually. All right, no more highs. Sit down in your thinking chairs and think. So, Men's Journal, who, I don't know, they've been a thing for as long as I've been alive, I'm pretty sure. They published articles such as, how often do married couples really have sex? And how do you compare? 5 minutes with this forgotten gym tool can help men over 40 stay fast and prevent ankle injuries. Wait, men over 40? I need this, actually. Forget men over 40. I don't know. Cosmo for him, does that make sense? I have no idea. But regardless, they saw fit to publish, men are lonelier than ever, and the quote-unquote toxic masculinity debate may be making it worse. Is the term toxic masculinity pushing men further into isolation, with male loneliness at a 5-fold high and suicide rates sharply elevated? Experts argue the phrase may be backfiring, and the call for a more nuanced conversation about manhood, mental health, and connection. Which, I'm going to pull a Reddit and have a strong reaction to this before even giving the article a chance. It's kind of giving, hey, I demand that you be nicer to me when you bring up that you have a problem with my behavior that is currently harming you. And I've literally never been able to take those arguments seriously. I just have to say, I don't think there's anything wrong with the phrase toxic masculinity. And if hearing 2 words back to back that you don't like is enough of an excuse for you to not make an effort, I don't know what to tell you. Someone in chat said this whole thing is just blaming women. Just wait. It's literally like a blame women iceberg, where probably Men's Journal is not trying to seem super blamey, but the further we get and the closer we get to these weird think tanks, it's gonna jump out. It's just so creepy. Someone said, I'm just like shrug. That's how I feel. But hey, let's be good media literate people and give this a chance. The phrase toxic masculinity has become one of the most recognizable terms in discussions about gender, mental health, and social behavior over the past decade. Originally popularized in academic and psychological circles to describe harmful cultural expectations placed on men, the expression was intended to criticize specific behaviors such as aggression, emotional suppression, and dominance, rather than masculinity itself. So far, so good. This is true. I agree. But then, an increasing number of psychologists, researchers, and commentators say the message of that term is often misconstrued by the public. They say broad use of the label has inadvertently left some men feeling like society now views traditional masculine traits with suspicion. So instead of encouraging healthier expressions of manhood, men are increasingly confused about their role in society. Okay. I see this a lot. Of this idea essentially that like we being men were basically shown this vision of what masculinity means from an early age, or even from eras that predate us, right? When it was actually possible and easy to have a career that will fund you getting a house and then having a family with a white picket fence. And now in a society where no one seems interested in that, and the things that are considered masculine are looked down upon, how does one even be a man? To this, I would say maybe just try to be a good person. I know, I'm sorry, I'm sorry if this is giving Mr. Rogers level kumbaya, but I think what this should show you is, instead of our annoying insistence on attaining this outdated ideal of manhood, maybe each person should just try to be a decent human being. But no, several researchers have suggested that this perception of toxic masculinity can discourage encouragement rather than inspire self-improvement. Men who already struggle, oh God, I'm sorry, I'm so tired of being asked to care about the feelings of quote unquote, no, hold on, sorry, hold on, wait, hold on. I told myself I wasn't going to crash out, and I'm not going to crash out. I've become very jaded with this language of think of the guys, think of the guys, because I do think of actually how all of this is pretty horrible for men, but how come for so many people who use this language, the end result is therefore women have a responsibility to think of the guys? I think if more of this discourse was asking men to think about men who are already struggling, it wouldn't read as an immediate red flag to me. But do you guys notice how it's almost always asking, hey, I think people who are not men are the ones who need to be focused on this big, massive problem that guys have caused for themselves. Men who already struggle with confidence, employment, or relationships may withdraw further if they feel they are being judged before they are understood. And there you have it. Don't be too mean to guys, because you, the people calling out toxic masculinity, are pushing them further over the edge. Like, notice how it was on God 3 paragraphs. Paragraph 1 was fine. It really was. Paragraph 2 was getting sus really quickly. And then already we're just at, oh, guys, we can't be too mean. Someone says men have a responsibility to think about men. I just... It's okay, though. It's okay. It's all right. Someone said, let's make the 4B movement worldwide. Researchers point to growing male isolation. Look, at this point, the article hasn't cited an actual source, so maybe they will here. Research studies show many men are experiencing unprecedented levels of social isolation, regardless of the language used to describe masculinity. Surveys from the Survey Center on American Life show men are significantly more likely than women to report having no close friends than they were several decades ago. I really want you to kind of look at how these numbers are flipped to turn a societal issue into a gender issue. Key findings compared to 1990, which was like, I think, 20 years ago. Share of men with no close friends rose from 3% to 15%, which is a 5-fold increase, right? Share of men with 6 or more close friends fell from 55% to 27%. Women also saw declines, but they were less steep. For example, 10% of women reported no close friends in 2021. They used a lot of numbers, a lot of mumbo jumbo, but there's only 2 numbers in here that are actually comparable. 15% of men say that they have no close friends, and 10% of women say that they had no close friends. This is not a gender-specific epidemic. That is literally a 5% difference. In general, everybody is getting lonelier for very obvious reasons. Look at the things that are actually being taken away. Not society's perfect vision of masculinity, but affordable experiences and spaces where people can hang out and do all of these things, and everybody being pushed in really increasingly isolated directions. Yeah, there is a loneliness problem. I'm not here to gaslight you into believing otherwise, but even in this article, which is trying to explain how this is a quote-unquote male epidemic, there's not that big of a difference between what men or women are reporting. Someone said insignificant difference. Yeah, it's not. I hate to say it's not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a deal from a gender standpoint. It's something we should all be addressing. Meanwhile, the U.S. Surgeon General has described loneliness. Oh, wait, somebody brought up third spaces. On God, though, the lack of third spaces is painful. Just, there's nowhere to be in a way that people can actually feel comfortable exploring. And what I mean by that is it's a money problem. In my second article that we're going to look into, it's going to talk about how even these things that people are pushed to do when they are feeling lonely are becoming increasingly unattainable. Literally, people can't go to concerts anymore because now these are costing an arm and a leg, depending on who you're going to see. Like, look at some of these tickets. People having to like readjust their lives in specific ways where they are not paying for these experiences. That, again, is a real thing, but this is something that everyone has to do. It's just if women were to complain about this, I don't think we would suddenly call it a quote-unquote female loneliness epidemic and start blaming men for this. Someone said libraries. Dude, the hours on libraries are going down every single day. Do you know the library around me? There, you know, most of the days, and I'm literally being serious. I could be wrong about this. I genuinely think it's open for 4 hours. I could be wrong about that. But I'm pretty sure the last time I wanted to go to the library, I just looked at the hours and I saw it was literally only open for 4 hours. And if that sounds normal to you or whatever, when I was a kid, libraries had hella hours, hella everything, but all of the support for libraries has just been going downhill to the point where they don't even have the resources to stay open long enough for anybody to go there in the first place. Please support your local library, actually. Anyway, sorry, that's an aside. I'm just gonna cry. Someone said my library is open 12 to 5. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Anyways, meanwhile, the U.S. Surgeon General has described loneliness as a major public health concern affecting physical and mental well-being. Researchers have also documented a widening educational and economic challenge for many men. In several developed countries, women now earn the majority of university degrees, while labor market shifts have reduced opportunities in industries that traditionally employed large numbers of men. How long did we take in this article about the male loneliness epidemic to say essentially the issue is that women are becoming more educated? I think I literally hear that in every single article that talks about this. They can't wait to dedicate a line pointing to also look at men falling behind women in these key areas, and it's left me with really, really, really conflicted feelings. So I think my opinion on this is twofold. Education should be free for everybody. And in an environment in which it would be free for everybody, I would say we should all just be getting as much opportunity as we can through the advancement of our careers. I can't just say, oh, everybody should go to college. It's that easy. It wasn't easy for me to go. And actually, without DEI practices, I never would have been able to go to college. I proudly refer to my scholarship as DEI because I want people to know it was a good thing. I literally never would have made it out of the place that I was in if it wasn't for access to diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. But like, notwithstanding the fact that obviously it's not just a hop, skip, and a jump for people, I would broadly say it would be nice if everybody was taking the same betterment opportunities, and then I don't think we would have this gap in the first place. Blah, 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 blah. Someone said it would solve so many problems to reform education. Yeah, I think when it comes to like college, this is and specifically from an American viewpoint, which is the only one I can give you, that is something I largely blame us not having free education on. But I will say the problem is certainly not women for becoming more educated, if that makes sense. Blah, 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 blah. Someone says the article writes about concurrent issues and lets the reader infer correlation/causation. Yeah, literally, because here we are describing loneliness as a public health concern, but it doesn't actually say for men specifically. Then we immediately follow that up with language going back to men have this problem and women don't. It's a mishmash of acknowledging loneliness as a real thing, but then all of these other unrelated things that are trying to make it sound like more of a problem than it is. Someone said I'm on low income full ride and someone in my program was complaining about DEI. That's gross that they were complaining about that. People need to, I hate it. But anyways, mental health experts note that these trends coincide with disproportionately high suicide rates among men. US CDC data consistently shows that the suicide rate for males is roughly 3 to 4 times higher than for females. The American Institute for Boys and Men explicitly connects the Survey Center on American Life friendship data to suicide risk. 15% of young men today say they don't have a close friend, a fivefold increase, etc. This loneliness has resulted in a mental health crisis for American boys and men. Today, men are 4 times more likely than women to die by suicide. I obviously understand the statistic. Again, I would say it has quite little to do with women in this case. Also, I get really, really, really mixed feelings about this as somebody who very publicly, unfortunately, struggles with suicidal ideation. Someone in chat said it better than I could. I'm just going to quote them here. Men's suffering is also the fault of the patriarchy. But okay. That's what I was going to get at in a much clumsier, more roundabout way. Yeah, actually, sometimes things are pretty horrible, but again, it is quite literally due to the fact that so many of the problems I've experienced in my life are absolutely cooked up in a lab by men to oppress ourselves. This is not me making light of serious issues in any meaningful way. I'm just literally saying 2 things. Number 1, even if patriarchy and misogyny was a thing that only affected women, that should still be enough of a reason to care about it. It shouldn't have to affect men for us to have empathy and be like, let us stop oppressing people who aren't men. But also, why are we not looking at the fact that we are literally just like every day cooking up new scenarios, that new tests for men to fail all the time? No crap. Everybody's going to have a very depressive response to this. I definitely had my own low points, but I guess thankfully I didn't fall into any kind of crazy Andrew Tate rabbit hole. I more so realized it as a broader societal issue than a gender thing. Why take important, stats on people who are at their low points, committing this, and try to conflate it with all of this? Women are getting more education, and you shouldn't use terms like toxic masculinity. You're hurting feelings. You're pushing men over the edge. I think, I guess what bothers me is this is a very uncharitable read, but it kind of sounds like you're saying, hey, stop criticizing men and leaving them behind because you're pushing them towards this. Am I literally crazy? It's hard not to read it this way. I think I have to meet articles like this with so much suspicion because I'm just like, why are we connecting all of these points in this way? What is the end goal that we're trying to get at here? This isn't going to help any man reading this actually move towards things that are going to improve his life. I don't understand. Someone said those numbers have been explained multiple times. The gender divide here expresses itself in lots of ways, and women and different gender expressions are still suffering here too. Okay, great. Actually, I think that's a really solid point that you brought up. Just because, unfortunately, suicide is one expression of intense suffering doesn't mean men are the only ones suffering in this society, or that it's even disproportionate. I didn't even think of that point myself. This is why I wanted to have this. This is genuinely why I wanted to have this in an open forum like this, because y'all are bringing up really good points and filling in the holes here. Everybody is suffering, and God, it actually makes me genuinely sad, because the more time we spend drawing these stupid lines, the more we're going to continue to do this. We can't actually fix the real problems if we can't name them. But anyways, similarly, a Psychology Today research notes that suicide a lot. Okay, I think we kind of get that. Moving on from here, I'm going to say, summarily, mental health researchers, institutes focused on boys and men, and public health officials routinely note that declining close friendships and higher loneliness among men are important contributing factors that coincide with these elevated rates. Suicide is multifactorial, but the social isolation link is widely recognized in the literature and expert commentary. With public health data consistently showing the higher rates, etc., men should be encouraged to seek support rather than withdraw from society. And this is the part where you can easily scroll back up here and say, what's causing men to withdraw from society? using terms like toxic masculinity. Men who already struggle with this may withdraw further if they feel they're being judged before they're understood. The issue isn't the people pointing out the actual problems. Men's Journal, please stop publishing dribble like this. And then I think what's so cringe is like, people are literally going to turn around and cite things like this and be like, no, I actually read this in Men's Journal where they cited actual problems showing the links between these things. And what is being cited here is not showing a link between these things. My God. Reading chat. Someone says, I get how boys fall down these rabbit holes because of how society has changed, and that should be discussed. But pretending it's bad because, quote unquote, women aren't as submissive as they used to be is nutty. Exactly. It makes me want to cry. Reading chat. Someone said, I wonder if there are any other groups in society that are afraid of being judged. What? No, it's just men. Watch out, guys. Some say we all suffer the same. Yeah, no, this is just not good for anybody. But anyways, if you're just thinking this article is only bringing up problems with no solutions, it says a growing call for more nuanced conversations is what Men's Journal wants. Masculinity is still cool. Rather than abandoning criticism of harmful behaviors, many experts advocate for more precise... Which experts? Where? Who? I don't think I saw a single human being's name in this entire article. Anyway, sorry. Many experts advocate for more precise language that separates destructive conduct from masculinity itself. Psychologist Richard Reeves, oh, finally, a person who we're going to get into in a second, by the way, actually, has argued that helping boys and men thrive should not be viewed as conflicting with efforts to advance gender equality. And similarly, researchers studying male well-being increasingly emphasize positive masculinity, focusing on responsibility, resilience, empathy, mentorship, and healthy emotional expression. Okay, here's the part where I hit my buzzer. That's not positive masculinity. That's just being a decent human being. Actually, let's go back and look at this list. Positive masculinity, such as responsibility, resilience, empathy, mentorship, and healthy emotional expression. First of all, none of these things are gendered in any way. I think actually if I was to apply a stupid gender goggle lens to this, I hilariously feel like these are things that are more traditionally associated with women. I'm not gonna lie to you, but they shouldn't be. These are literally just positive traits, and it's kind of getting back to my initial point of maybe we should stop trying so hard to be men in the first place. Someone said, what is positive masculinity? This is a part where you're gonna have 10 different dudes giving you 10 different answers, but I'm over here telling you I don't think that's a thing. I don't. If positive masculinity actually exists in a way that is not just listing things that any human being can do no matter what your gender is, I have yet to see it. I really, really do. Someone said everything listed as a positive masculinity is just being a good or strong person. Yeah, no, we have to be these things in the first place. Everybody should. Okay, anyways. Those who support this approach believe that men are more receptive, guys. They're more receptive when discussions acknowledge their struggles alongside expectations for accountability. They argue that fostering purpose, stable relationships, meaningful work, and community involvement is more likely to reduce isolation than messages perceived as broadly condemning masculine identity, whatever that means. So I guess we're asking for compliment sandwiches. It's okay to point out that certain aspects of what is considered to be masculinity are in fact toxic, but do so in a nice, affirming way that's making people feel more willing to listen to you. And then maybe they won't, I don't know, withdraw further from society, as the article puts it. I have so many feelings on this. I genuinely have so many feelings. And I think instead of trying to say this in a nuanced way, I think I'm just going to say it in a really extreme way, because I find I run into this issue with a lot of different conversations about social issues. it really doesn't make sense to look at a group of people who are saying, stop killing us, and demand that they say it nicer so that you don't get your feelings hurt. In the specific case I'm referring to, like the end result, obviously, of quote unquote toxic masculinity or this negative patriarchal violence that absolutely does reside as an easy path for men to take in this society. It does kill people. I guess it's just like very hard for me to sit here and act like this is a reasonable take to have when I literally hate to bring it up, but it's just article after article of how actually deadly this is. People are criticizing it because it has to be called out. It has to be excised from society. It is killing people. So I don't think I have time for this, chat. I genuinely don't think I have time to sit here and try to figure out ways of being nicer, asking nicely, making people feel included. This is not the time for that. You shouldn't be getting your feelings hurt by this anyway. And I'm telling you this man to man. This is absolutely ridiculous to me. Reading chat. Someone said this stuff also makes men think they can't be abused. Yeah, no, like it's deadly for everybody. Actually, I have a working theory. I have a working theory. I don't have very many original takes in my brain because I'm not a very wise person. But I look around and I observe things. I actually genuinely believe that the end result of all bigotry, even people don't realize this, is everybody dead. Actually, if you take literally any form of bigotry to its extreme, it will wind up harming everybody in the entire world, including in some ways, or many ways, people who also hold the power. That's not enough to actually insulate you from how harmful these things that you're foisting upon society are. That's how I feel about this whole patriarchy thing, obviously, of just like, the end result of this, guys, is that everybody dead, right? It doesn't matter whether you're a man, doesn't matter whether you're a woman, whether you're not, neither, all of the above. Like, this isn't sustainable for anybody. Someone said destruction. Destruction is ultimately the goal of all of this. So again, if there was ever a time to like hold hands and be nicer, it wasn't now. It really isn't. Blah, 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 blah. Reading chat. Someone said, I'm gonna wear my toxic masculinity merch every week. Do it, bro. Okay, so next, I don't just want to like kill your brain cells though. I actually wanted to read what I thought was a pretty fantastic article about this from Slate. So it's kind of funny because this came out after the other article, and I'm not saying it's a response to it, but wait, pulling this right here. If you'll allow me to manufacture some drama just because it makes life more interesting, I do think it's very funny that this men's journal one is called Men Are Lonelier Than Ever, and the toxic masculinity debate's making it worse. And this one is called, you can see from the tab title, Men Are Not Lonelier Than Everybody Else. So let's let Slate kind of dive into what it's calling America's Loneliness Trap, which, by the way, obviously this is an American publication, but I'm sure this could be extrapolated in many ways abroad. One group of people is more isolated than anyone else, says Slate, and it's not men. Men are lonely, you've probably heard. Few men will admit it, but it's true of most of them, declared Los Angeles Times columnist Gene Guerrero in a tsunami of recent takes on the male loneliness epidemic. Guerrero partially blamed the virtual world and its pornography and ideological provocation. Okay, this discourse often faults men, or at least masculinity, for our empty social calendars. As a Guardian columnist theorized, many men are socialized to prioritize strength, independence, and stoicism, making it difficult for them to open up and form emotional connections. An Atlantic writer agreed. Friendships are hard to maintain. Friendships are hard to maintain for everybody. Sorry. But the social stigma that some men face when opening up and being vulnerable can make things even harder. A punk rock psychologist told Vice that men have low emotional intelligence. God, but hold on. I want to go back to this. This isn't Slate's take. They're just quoting Atlantic, and a writer from the Atlantic saying friendships are hard to maintain, and men get an even harder version of this because of the social stigma of being vulnerable. This is the number one issue that actually I see among my friend group. Ironically, I do have friends, but the thing that we all complain about, it is so hard for any of us to make friends. It's not just guys. I have friends like women, non-binary, brother, you could have any gender under the sun. And I have heard somebody in my personal life complain about, why is it so hard to make new friends? We're not like, I guess, super worried about this because I guess we have each other to complain to. But I view it as more of a social thing where, this is my take on it. Someone says, especially if you're neurodivergent. Oh, you know what? All of my friends aren't neurodivergent. You know what? That's probably playing into it a little bit or a lot. But like, I do genuinely feel like when I was younger, it was easier to do, and maybe that's because I was in school or something. That has to be it. We've talked about this at length. Probably it was me being in school and then having set times where I was supposed to be there, and friendships wind up developing naturally. And then, you know, I go to college and I'm at work and all these other things. But like nowadays, the thought of actually going from zero to new friend, I don't really know. Brother, we're all struggling. We're all struggling. So it's a forced proximity. In the absence of forced proximity, friendships are much more difficult for any person than they would have been in times where that was a factor in our social interactions. And again, this is not a gender issue. Now, I'm not arguing with Slate here. They weren't saying this is real. They're just trying to quote of how people are gendering this loneliness problem. They're going to turn around and make the point it's not a gender issue as well. But just, I wish it was easier to make friends too. Someone said after COVID and the episode that created, I've never made friends. Damn, I don't think I've made a single friend after the pandemic either. Hold on, wait a second. I never thought about this. And because all of my friends that are my current friends, I've had since before the pandemic. And thankfully we're still in each other's lives. But yeah. Something, the COVID-19 happened, and obviously ain't nobody going out to make friends at that point. And then after that, I have never actually been able to shift back into whatever version of myself that was making friends, because it hasn't happened even once. Oh, that's crazy. I never really thought about it that way. I'm gonna cry. No, I'm not gonna cry. This is okay. Someone says, I have friends kind of, but we haven't really made it work outside of... Oh, we haven't made it work, or maybe just one. Yeah, maintaining the friendship over a long period of time is what I find to be difficult. Someone said COVID opened up a portal. Yeah, all this to say, I'd more readily blame the pandemic than I would women per se, especially when so many women are the ones also reporting these same problems. BuzzFeed has cranked out, going back to the article, 12 posts about male loneliness in 2026 so far at least. Some of them are pretty brutal. For example, 27 loser men whose actions single-handedly prove the male loneliness epidemic is self-inflicted. This is the part where I got really critical of this article because I was worried they were going to turn around and say it's not self-inflicted. But they take a more nuanced take, which is the nuance we actually need, which is that, like, it's just not a male problem. There is a loneliness epidemic. So anyways, they're just talking about, you know, it shows up in Saturday Night Live, The Daily Show, etc. I could go on and on. As assembled in the popular imagination, the image of lonely men, evidently most men, is emotionally repressed, excruciatingly awkward, and freaked out by intimacy outside a romantic relationship, or maybe even within one. They're a drag on others and susceptible to dangerous influences. Do such men exist? Perhaps, but the truth is, in aggregate, men are not much lonelier than women. Thank you, Slate, for printing something that makes me feel sane. Recent large polls from Pew Research and the Harvard Graduate School of Education found no significant gender gap in self-reported feelings of loneliness. In a KFF survey, more women than men actually said they always or often feel lonely. And in the 2021 American Perspective survey, 15% of men said they had no close friends. You're going to recognize this one from the other article, versus 10% of women. But when the Pew pollsters asked the same question more recently, they found no substantial gender disparity. At the latest American Time Use survey, the average man spent 5.5 hours per day alone, and the average woman spent 5 hours and 20 minutes. Differences in time spent with friends and family were also puny. Loneliness has, overall, crept up to alarming levels in the US. These same studies show that Americans have fewer close friends and spend more time alone since 1990, etc. The number of hours per day has gone up. Across all these studies, there is one group that is drastically lonelier than everyone else. The people who are not getting their share of social connection in America are those who aren't getting their share of a lot. Poor people. It's a class problem, not a culture war issue. Those who struggle to afford essentials are also more likely to struggle with feelings of isolation. When viewed from this angle, loneliness in the US seems less like something people impose on themselves through poor psychosocial maintenance, an inherent premise of blaming gender, and more like something society imposes on people. There really isn't a male loneliness crisis, but there is, as I learned, poring over studies, speaking to experts, and to low-income people, a loneliness trap. And since anyone's luck can go sideways, we're all at risk of getting stuck in it. Everyone in my comments are like shocked. They're like, what? No. Yeah, obviously. So they start going into some of these stories, which I really appreciate. And you know what? I have a lot of empathy for these stories. It says right here, like at the start of his 20s, Dan had an assortment of friends left over from high school, a workforce training program. They went to restaurants, caught movies, hung out at the mall. Then COVID-19 hit. Dan, who asked me to only use his first name, lived with his mother. They didn't skip any precautions. He stopped taking community college classes, which he had hoped to use to transfer to university. I'm basically just a shut-in for a year and a half. I don't do anything. His friends move away, drift out of contact. 6 years ago, his social life still hasn't recovered. Dan is now 27, and together he and his mother survive on her social security payments and his full-time job as a home health aide, which pays $21 an hour. That is insane. I find across the board the jobs in society that are actually genuinely the most important from my perspective, or I guess the most directly and obviously helping people tend to be lower paid like this in ways that is just baffling. $21 an hour, which I'm not knocking as a salary at all. I'm just saying literally, why is this not something that you could be compensated more for when this is your full-time job? I feel the same way about teachers, for example. That's not a great rate. A lot of times, like, bro, it's just painful. Someone said doctors and teachers are barely paid. Yeah, no, I hate that for all of us, actually. Blah, 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 blah. Reading chat. Someone said this is USD. Yeah, this is USD. The jobs of caring for anyone. Yeah, these are underpaid, obviously. Blah, 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 blah. Someone said $21 depending on where you live is still not enough. Yeah, I will say this. Not here currently. Thankfully, this was me a long time ago. But at one point, I even had a job. Actually, I would like to know, who here did everything that you were supposed to? I went to school and then I got a job and I still wasn't making enough money to even live on my own. And I also had no idea how I was ever going to do that. The path was there, but it was going to take a long time. I got fortunate and some of my side gigs picked up and now I'm doing YouTube. But for a second there, even all the things that people will scream at you of like, oh, get a job, go to school. Okay, I did those and I don't even make enough money to literally move out of my parents' house. So what next? Thankfully, they were very accommodating and I was able to live there without incident. So I see a lot of people saying me. Yeah, that was my experience a long time ago. I can't imagine it's much better now. Anyways, He's working towards a bachelor's in business administration via online classes. These days, he tells me, I don't hang out with people. That's not really something I do. He attributes his loneliness to a lack of hobbies. People trying to make new friends are often told to get involved in groups of like-minded others, but Dan doesn't have the means to get out there. With more disposable income, he could afford to go to dance classes or to a gym to meet people, he says, maybe learn to sail. Socioeconomic status is a consistent predictor of loneliness. According to the KFF study, here's an actual quote for you. Adults in households making less than 40K in annual income are about 3 times as likely to report frequent loneliness as those in households making more than 90K. In the Harvard survey, 29% of those earning less than 30K felt lonely compared to 19 earning 50K and up. The American Perspectives one in 5 U.S. adults without college education said they had no close friends, almost double the rate of those with at least a bachelor's. So the very studies that we are pulling for these stupid men's journal articles to point the finger at gender are literally explaining to you it is a class problem. Actually, it's a means issue, and obviously that's not the only thing causing this. But why are we unwilling to talk about it in these terms? I feel someone said having a hobby is a luxury these days. Bro, hobbies are expensive as hell. I don't know a single person who has a free hobby. I don't. My friends crochet. Crochet is the biggest one. I think out of all my friends, the thing that probably the most of them share would be their, wait, this is knitting. This is crocheting. Their fiber arts love. That joint ain't cheap. I also have a lot of my friends are readers. Reading is not a cheap hobby. It can be, obviously, but it also may not be, depending on whether you're able to get access to this stuff. And then there's like a tier list. Obviously, some hobbies are cheaper than others, but yeah, it's not as simple, I guess, as go out there, be free, go meet like-minded people doing the same things as you. Someone said cheapest hobby for me, origami, baby. Hey, origami sounds pretty lit, actually. Someone said cosplay materials are so expensive. Yes, I know a couple cosplayers, and they literally scare me because I'm like, they literally are having to like, damn, it's just expensive, bro. It's just expensive, actually. Someone said, God forbid you get into music production. That's my issue. Music production is my hobby, and it has not been cheap. Anyways, Someone says rollerblading is affordable until you have to get new wheels. That's the thing. Hobbies are cheap until they're not, right? Anyways, they're talking more about the relationship between how much people are making and their actual ability to go to these spaces where people are doing their hobbies and stuff. It says the trend extends outside the US. They're citing a University of Oxford study. 49% of low-income individuals reporting loneliness versus 15% of high earners. This person saying, maybe Dan could have made friends in college, but his in-person secondary education was interrupted by the pandemic and he never went back. Some people his age make friends at their job, but his line of work isn't great for that. Spurred by an aging population, home health and personal care is a growing field that does not require a college degree. Wait a minute. Also, speaking of this, I don't think it said he exclusively works with elderly people, but I'm just going to assume based off of home health. I mean, obviously, many people could need this, but you see this more with older people needing this kind of service. Do you all want to talk about the actual loneliness epidemic with older people? I bring this up every time. Every time I hear the phrase male loneliness and the term epidemic, my mind immediately goes to, it's actually older people that society has genuinely left behind in the way that people talk about, like, oh man, no, it was literally like an aging population of people who literally contributed everything and were a part of society, and then we have absolutely no framework in place where we decide they're no longer quote unquote contributors. It's actually pretty disturbing and disgusting, I think, the way we ignore or gloss over that issue. Someone said that, and disabled people, and anybody who needs care, really, I think, would fall into this. There's a loneliness problem if we want to work on that. Someone said loneliness problems of the elderly has been there forever. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, I don't want to be annoying at all, but it's hard for me not to think of that as a function of capitalism, basically. Both that and problems that disabled people may deal with loneliness, because essentially again, in a society that feels as though you are not contributing, even though that's false. That's a farce. These are the people who don't have access or resources to anything. But alas. Someone said ableism and ageism problem. Yeah, I would love for more on that, please. Anyways, okay, so they're talking about his job, this, that, the other, etc. One reason is a lack of coworkers to learn from or supervisors to impress. For the most part, his agency sends him to the same few households day after day alone. It's a common predicament. Low-paying fields have changed. Many workers now have tenuous, if any, ties to others doing the same job. I saw this too when it might be later in this article. I don't remember exactly what it was, but like even a lot of people who have jobs where you think like, oh, go be friends with your coworkers, they're not even with the company in an official capacity anymore, or not in a way where it was more common, like, oh, if you work somewhere, then that means you actually work there. But now so many things are being subcontracted. You're not actually staying in one place long enough to develop like these work relationships that could turn into friendships. So that's an aspect as well. Reading chat. Someone said, I'm on disability. It makes no sense to even find someone. Good thing I like being alone a lot. Ugh, yeah, I'm sorry to hear, but hey, enjoying your own company is a skill, and you maxing that one out, you're going to be way ahead of a lot of other people. Someone said coworkers are overrated. Oh yeah, also, this is not me saying you need to be friends with your coworkers, because some of the worst people I've literally ever met in my entire life are coworkers. But, so I've met some good ones. Sometimes I feel like the odd one out. I actually genuinely have had. I can count them on one hand. I can count them on one hand, the amount of coworkers I've had that I would actually consider. No. I have to go back up, I think. I might go up to 5 fingers. I've had coworkers that I think were really, really great people, and we were on the same wavelength, and it was a vibe. But then looking back, I'm just like, we also might have just been doing that like neurodivergent magnetism thing that we tend to do sometimes. But hey, friends is friends. Someone in chat said I actually love my coworkers. Yeah, but we haven't all been cursed with horrible coworkers. Anyways, some of my managers lovely. Yo, that's lucky. In decades past, low-wage positions weren't always like this. If you were a working person in the 70s, you probably saw the same people every day at work, said Aaron Davis, a researcher at Oxford who studies social interaction and public health. Maybe you went to one of these working men's clubs or the same bar after work. You had a fairly large social network, etc. So anyways, we kind of get the point. They're looking at Dan as an example of a person who, due to falling into the way society has actually changed, finds himself lonelier. And they are literally citing so much more research here, the very same studies that people are trying to use to point the gender issue. Then they talk about a woman. Chat, I didn't even know that was allowed. Are women exist? We're now talking about Sarah Perez. It says Sarah Perez works as a production assistant at a Los Angeles home fragrance company. Unlike Dan, she interacts with coworkers and gets along with them. One recently invited the 32-year-old Perez and some other work friends to a birthday excursion to a Renaissance fair. So this is probably the part where you're going to be like, oh God, so this is where we have these mythical women that are like thriving and are completely immune to all of the problems in society as the men just continue to languish and wilt like sad little roses. No, actually, Sarah's not really having fun either. They bought tickets, she says, her friends, and costumes to everything, and I just couldn't go, said Perez. I didn't have the money, and I wouldn't have been able to dress up along with them, and it sucked. Tickets were $65 and didn't include add-ons like a giant turkey leg or a horn of ale. Perez earns $22 an hour, and her income is quickly eaten up by expenses, including credit card debt she's trying to pay down. She spends most of her time in her room in a shared house that she rents for $1,000 a month. She enjoys journaling and fiction writing and has trained herself to generally avoid visiting places that cost money, which at this point is so many places actually. So like, I really actually kind of appreciate what this article is doing or attempting to do here. Why are we not also talking about these stories? Is this not loneliness, chat? Do we just ignore the existence of the Sarah Perez's across the world because they're not men? I just don't think that makes much sense to do. Someone said, that's me, it sucks. Yeah, I'm sorry if this is your experience. I feel like a lot of people probably relate to this while not being men. I see so many people in chat saying, I feel you, relatable AF. Someone said, I feel you, Miss Press. She sounds like me for real. Again, where is literally this? This is a common thing. It's a bummer, she says, especially because one of the best things to do when you meet new people is to bond over an experience together. That's how you make friends. That's how you know whether or not you can bond with somebody. And Slate says, for those of us not counting pennies, it's easy to forget how often hanging out means spending money. Friends see movies. Movie ticket prices are actually like robbery at this point. Friends see movies or go to concerts together. They catch up over drinks or brunch. Taking a class or investing in a new hobby like crafting or cosplay could lead to like-minded people. These activities aren't free. American cities and towns once featured a variety of low-cost socially connective spaces to which members contributed mainly time and effort, like civic organizations, whose decline political science Robert Putnam in his landmark 2000 book Bowling Alone. Wait, well, I botched the hell out of that sentence. Let me try this again. These are the civic organizations whose decline political scientist Robert D. Putnam lamented in Bowling Alone, his landmark 2000 book on the decay of community participation in the U.S. So basically, like, the problem that the Sarahs of the world are facing wasn't even as much of a problem back then as it is now. Again, this is me saying in a more nuanced way that no, there is no loneliness epidemic. Society has changed for the worse in a way that has absolutely caused people to withdraw from it further. And it doesn't even have to be like that. It's just nobody wants to address the key issue. Because also, like, a criticism of the class component of loneliness would essentially just be a criticism of capitalism and capitalistic hierarchy itself, which is why I would assume it's just more beneficial for people to run articles that want, you know, men and women at each other's throats over. There are definitely issues that need to be addressed from a different perspective, but not this one. And I don't know. It just seems pretty obvious when you lay it out like this. Someone said the erosion of the public commons. Yeah, no, like a video essay person with a brain bigger than mine could easily tell you why people are actually lonely here. Reading chat. Someone said, I just want you guys to know this isn't even an American only problem. We got this in the UK where we can walk 10 feet to meet people because everyone in England is miserable and at all costs way too much. Yeah. So again, this article is very, very American centric, but as I said, you can extrapolate this. We are all having our own version of this problem. I mean, maybe you live in a country where you're like, actually, this is literally not a problem. Show me your ways. Oh, wise one. Someone said rage bait articles are on the rise. It's clickbait titles and dribble opinion pieces. I know. More of this and less of that, please. Anyways, so they're talking about the decline of more social-based, less money-based organizations. And it says, when Perez goes on dates, she says she often feels inadequate during conversations about life experiences. They'll tell me, oh yeah, I spent 2 weeks in China, I spent 2 weeks in Europe and doing all these things. And it's just like, I haven't taken a vacation in over 5 years, she said. I can't. I don't go anywhere. I'm not cultured. I feel, okay, this is making me sad. I feel very left behind and I'm only getting older, so it's very depressing to me. She feels alienated even when her coworkers talk about that classic water cooler topic, TV, because the streaming services they watch aren't within her budget. And this article goes on to just talk about more people, talk about poverty's role in all of this. I think for as much as, you know, I cringe deep within my soul at the existence of these men's journal articles. It is nice to remind myself, actually, that not everyone is insane or trying to foster hatred between groups of people. And actually, this is something that we could tackle theoretically, because the first step to solving any problem would obviously be acknowledging the problem. Someone says she got a pirate. Yes, I will say this. This is not me blaming her, but if I was Sarah Perez's friend, I would introduce her to the magic of piracy, because what she may not realize, which a lot of people don't realize, you could watch all the same things that your friends are watching for free. But I shouldn't be telling you that on a large platform. That's literally neither here nor there. But yeah, I'm a big piracy fan. I literally would have had nothing as I would have had nothing as like a teenager if not for piracy. I think if something existed and I couldn't afford it, it didn't exist when I was younger. And that was like, if I wanted to do artwork using certain platforms or products, those products don't exist. I didn't have money. And my parents absolutely did not have the disposable income to slide that my way. So I had to get real resourceful for a lot of things. And we should normalize that a little bit. But yeah, again, that's not a Sarah specific issue. It's more of a broader thing. But anyways, you get the gist of the Slate article. So then someone said you wouldn't steal a purse, and these times maybe I would download the hell out of a purse. I'd download an entire Birkin. Let's do it. I'd flip it. Someone said class divide tactic. Yeah, okay. Good pivot point. So all this to say, you kind of get the point of this article. My thing I want to get at is how do we in the mainstream get these utterly ridiculous and obviously like agenda-based nonsense articles about this quote-unquote loneliness thing when all of the actual research that would explain this in a rational way exists? It's because of the culprits over here. The Institute for Family Studies. This is just one of these weird, cringy think tanks that is funneling a lot of this conversation, because it's all part of their bizarre goal of essentially trying to revert to an earlier state of society and funnel women back into, motherhood roles, which that's not a negative thing if that is your actual life path. But what I'm saying is this is something the people like this think women should be doing, regardless of what the women in question want. The gender war is real and goes far beyond the web. So many of the articles that I did not choose for this video were citing the Institute for Family Studies as a source, and these people are unhinged. In June, fellow advocate for boys and men. Oh, also, this was written by a woman. Written by Lisa Britton. Anyways, in June, fellow advocate for boys and men, Richard Reeves, president of the American Institute for Boys and Men. Remember I told you I was going to mention that one guy, Richard Reeves, from the very first article? He contributes to stuff like this. He published an enlightening piece for the Institute for Family Studies titled, What Gender War? Even though I think I agree with his main point here, he highlighted the latest data. Ordinary men and women are navigating modern life with more economic parity and shared responsibilities than the online shouting matches suggest. Engaged fathers are on the rise in many households. The quote-unquote gender war, he implied, is an overblown spectacle fueled by toxic voices on social media. Lisa, is that her name? Linda, Lisa. Lisa says, I agree with much of the data and optimism Richard presents. More fathers are involved in their children's lives than in previous generations. Women have more freedom and have made large gains in education and the workforce. Families finding their own balance rather than top-down mandates is needed in our own modern world. Yet, I must respectfully disagree that the gender war is confined to digital battlegrounds with little real-world impact. The toxicity has leaked into our institutions, culture, policies, and our daily lives in ways that are reshaping how men and women relate to each other, how boys are raised and treated, how men view themselves, and how girls and women view their own worth. So no matter how much we try to fight back against this with rationality or even just reality, just looking at actual statistics and numbers, there's always going to be people like the Institute for Family Studies trying to tell us, to suggest. Someone said, what does a gender war even mean? It means everything and nothing. It could either mean like actual misogyny, which then I would say is not a war. That's a problem, right? But the people using it, that's not what they mean. They're essentially literally trying to convince us that there's some kind of war against men, or there's some kind of war between men and women. But again, all you really have to do is start talking to a few women, and then you'll realize any one person's decision to step back from an oppressive force isn't actually a declaration of war. Right? Like if a bunch of women are just like, and I have actually seen a lot of people say this, I'm just not gonna deal with men right now. I'm not gonna entertain this. I'm not gonna surround myself with this at the moment. That's not actually a gender war. That's consequences of, well, I hate to say it, men's actions. So that's the perspective from which I say there is no gender war literally at all, but because that would imply some sort of parody here. But that's, again, I just we live in hell. So actually this is a real thing, which is apparently the very real battle of the sexes is leading us straight to our doom. So Avengers Doomsday, no, a gender's doomsday. So that was so bad. Oh my god. Jeez. Why do I have a platform? I think that one failed punch should literally disqualify me from ever being allowed to speak into a microphone. I started going for it, and then halfway through me trying to say it, I realized how unfunny a gender's doomsday is. But I already said it. I'm sorry. I'm so stupid. Someone said pack it up. But then someone under there says it was good. Hey, we all have different humor styles. Sadly, the only thing... Wait, actually. Before we get into this next thing, I want to digress because we've actually been on topic for a full hour. Does anybody relate to this? The only things that are making me funny right now... the only things that are making me laugh right now aren't funny. I don't know what happened. I think I'm sure I've said this before, but when I was like younger, I had like a normally aligned sense of humor where if something funny happened, I would laugh and I would find it funny. So things that are supposed to be funny, like comedy specials and things like this, I would be like, ha ha. Nowadays, none of this stuff makes me laugh. I could literally sit through like an entire stand-up special just stone-faced. But if you show me something that is not actually funny, I sometimes can laugh to the point of it being uncontrollable because, like, I don't know why. I don't know what happened. Someone says it brain rot. Brain rot's more likely to make me act. Maybe I've just had a form of brain rot at this point. I don't know what it is. Someone said I get this too much. Yeah, I just show me some online video that is only mildly humorous, and that is the thing that I will basically break down crying over in a fit of comedy. But something that's actually funny, I'm just like, oh, that was kind of funny. I don't know what happened, bro. Someone said, I find dad jokes funny. Dad jokes are getting funnier to me. Really basic and simple puns are getting funnier to me. Obvious and easy low-hanging punchlines have become funnier. I don't know what happened. I really don't. Reading chat. Someone said, I laugh at dad jokes most of the time. For real. Anyways, moving on. Our doom. I have spoken with academics and thought leaders about this issue. They've acknowledged that conversations in policy, philanthropy, and academic circles may not fully reflect the struggles playing out in ordinary working class communities. That disconnect matters. I see it in my inbox and conversations with friends, women in their 30s who vent that men are trash while living with roommates because rent feels impossible and purpose feels elusive. Men tell me Wait, I actually kind of love this. I love this. Let's get into the nitty gritty of this whole men are trash thing. I think I would like to. Yeah. I have strong feelings about this. So I notice a tendency to over police people's expressions of frustration. And especially when they are being faced with things that are actively hurting them, is how I feel about this whole men are trash and men having a very like horrific horrified pearl clutching reaction to women who will go around saying things like men ain't you know what, this that the other. I could, I guess, sit here and try to not all men, even though I just think that's a waste of my energy. I just feel like if you I'd say this, just don't be trash and it won't be a problem if somebody goes online and types this. Maybe that's actually not a woke take, but I just feel like in a fit of somebody seeing some horribly violently misogynistic thing happening for the 20th time this week and then saying something about men, which is obviously a generalization, instead of getting mad over that, I think fixing some of these root causes is maybe a better use of my energy, or at least that's what I've told myself. And then I find myself not getting mad over these things because I'm just like, I know why people are saying this. I know what they're reacting to. Patriarchy is a problem, so let's not enforce that type beat. Someone says, I'm not allowed to be angry or upset or frustrated unless I put a happy tone on it. Yeah, I just... we could discuss the nuances of this until the cows come home, but also I probably have said equally generalized things in a state of anger in reaction to stuff as well. So, alas. Anyways, men tell me they hold back from approaching women, but not because they lack interest, but because they fear misinterpretation, cancellation, or not measuring up in a culture that frames masculinity as toxic, but still demands traditional expectations of them. Oh God, not the men afraid of being canceled. Young men are struggling. So here's, wait, hold on a second. Wait. Someone in chat said they just don't like seeing their humor reflected in us. My straight dude friends will make jokes about kitchens or whatever and then get mad when I say I don't trust men. No, you're literally right, because on God, I genuinely have encountered men whose entire humor style is just like women are bad. And like dishwasher jokes out the wazoo, women ruining people's lives. Javier Bardem being asked in an interview, how does it feel to be the only man in the world who enjoys working with his wife? That's an actual thing that happened. When that is the basis of so much quote unquote comedy, I do genuinely think it's very silly to swoop in when we start getting some of these, oh, men are trash, actually. Men ain't, you know what? Oh, you can't trust men, this, that, the other, always a man. Some of this is humor, some of this is not. But, like, the call kind of coming from inside the house here. Some men used to go to war. That one makes me laugh, actually. That one makes me laugh a little bit. Anyways, young men are struggling. A new report from the Institute for Family Studies, here's where we get into this research that people are citing. America's Demoralized Men, Part 2, Lost Pathways, Greater Struggles. This sounds like the worst video game in the history of the world. Why did you title this like this? Spotlights the struggles facing young men today. Many unmarried men want to date, yet they struggle to find partners who will go out with them. Half report difficulty finding someone willing. A culture that treats male initiative as predatory doesn't make dating easier. Okay. I'm going to actually go ahead and say male initiative is predatory, because it's not an actual thing that inherently resides within men. It's a social construct that we foist upon boys and men, and we tell them that they actually have a right to go get her. Yeah, that is predatory. What are we doing here? This idea is fueled by the gender war and deeply affects how men view themselves. Someone in chat said, just don't be predatory. Yeah, if you don't want to be viewed as predatory, stop acting in ways that are basically signaling to people that you feel as though you're entitled to their body. Really, I think is the issue behind a lot of the vibes that men are giving off sometimes. According to the IFS survey, 43% agree I'm inclined to think that I'm a failure. In the past 30 days, 25% felt lonely or most of the time. 26% felt isolated. 20% said they never felt loved or wanted. Okay. We have this quote. The gender war fuels our boy crisis that many refuse to acknowledge. Okay. God, this is a lot of new information. My mind immediately goes to like medical diagnosis and how oftentimes when you are a boy, doctors will understand you as a human being and will attempt to use science to help you. But then when you're a girl and you're having these same conditions, ADHD, autism, etc., you literally, it's not even considered that you could have a brain that functions in this way. I think what unnamed boy crisis are we referring to? Because almost all almost all publications or studies or literature I've ever seen has indicated it's actually in the opposite direction. I'm very confused about this. Men tell me they watch promotions go to less qualified female colleagues under diversity quotas. No! How many paragraphs did it take? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 paragraphs in. 6 paragraphs in, and we got the DEI is actually the problem. Do you see why it is problematic that we turn around and cite sources like this that are literally writing anti-DEI articles? This is not real science, guys. Women in their 40s confide to me that they delayed children. Hold on. We're really getting into the meat and potatoes here. So men are watching their promotions go to less qualified female colleagues, and it breeds resentment. Oh, okay. So we hate women now, I guess. Women in their 40s confide to me that they delayed children for the quote unquote, you don't need a man, be a girl boss dream, only to face the sharp edge of biology too late. Ew. Okay, wait. Are we on God? Are we on God? Doing that thing where we look at women who choose not to have children and wagging our finger and being like, oh, you'll never escape biology. Someday you're gonna want to have a child. Forget your actual agency as a human being. Science and biology is the reason why you don't actually matter, and you just need to use your body to produce another human being. This sort of idea that feminism, or sorry, you don't need a man, be a girl boss dream, which is just what people like this would call feminism, is leading to people who regret exercising their bodily autonomy to not have children. I find this to be pretty disturbing. There are common reflections of a deeper fracture caused by the decades-long gender war that supposedly doesn't really exist. This article thinks it's eating. Look at education. Young men are a shrinking minority on college campuses, but those on campus are being indoctrinated and or silenced for their privilege. What? What are they talking about? Hold on. On God? Oh my God. The disappearing male student. They link to another article. It's time to stop pathologizing masculinity. These people are literally so close. These people are literally so close to understanding. Yes, it is actually time to stop this hyperfixation on masculinity. Okay, so I guess what they're trying to say is like, we need to stop acknowledging men having privilege because they're not wanting to go to school. Men are leaving for other spaces because they're constantly under attack in higher education. Every semester, I have male students in my office venting about how professors allow classmates to stereotype and malign them. Title IX? They feel uncomfortable, but they don't speak up because doing so risks igniting the fire of a Title IX investigation. Dude. This is actually literally like an iceberg of heinous right-wing nonsense. It just goes deeper and deeper. And the very outside of it, our men's journal article is talking about don't say toxic masculinity. And underneath it are, oh, men are trying to pretend like we live in a world where you can't even say something bad about a woman or she's going to, this is implying falsely accuse you of some kind of assault or something. Dude. Anyways, going back to the OG article that Lisa has written for us. In K through 12 classrooms, typical boy energy is pathologized. Boys are often medicated for normal behaviors. Oh, am I about to have a really strong reaction to this as somebody with ADHD? Boys are often medicated for normal behaviors because, quote unquote, boys are a problem, and the system is structured for girls. How? We took action when girls lagged behind boys. Now we shrug as boys fall behind in reading, graduation rates, and college enrollment. Why? Because it's, quote unquote, women's turn. The gender war fuels our boy crisis that many refuse to acknowledge. Chat. What do you think they mean by boys are medicated for normal behaviors? I am literally ADHD. Yep. They immediately link to something from, I don't know, EBSCO about ADHD. I don't know how to say this like non-dramatically, so I'm just going to say it dramatically. It wasn't normal behaviors that I wanted to disappear from the earth every day since I was 4 because I didn't understand myself as being functional in the same way as everyone else around me. That was my cute little unmedicated ADHD experience. So if you are actually genuinely going to sit here and say ADHD is just boys being boys, which is simultaneously ableist, misogynist, and a bunch of other things, I have to push back against that one really pretty hard, actually. This is insane. Someone said more patriarchal ableism. Yeah, what? What are we doing here? Someone said the system is built for girls. Yeah, what does the system is built for girls mean? In what way is that a reflection of reality? The very DEI that they're complaining about up here is a reaction to the fact that the system was actually built to prioritize men. Okay, but someone in my chat said, can I get in the system structure for girls, please? I'm not binary, but also a woman. Yeah, there's probably a lot of people in chat who would love to see this world in which actually the system is structured for you. What in the world? What in the world? Reading chat. Someone said, no, it's not. Yeah, it's absolutely not structured for girls. Anyways, so we're stopping talking about how ADHD is actually just boys being boys. And we're now going to talk about the war on motherhood. Oh, God, no. No, we're not. I'm not reading the rest of this drivel. But you can imagine what's here, essentially. All women should become mothers. It doesn't say that, but they obviously believe that. And now declining birth rates. Dude, the gender war is everywhere, says Lisa of the Institute for Family Studies. When you go to these people's, let's see, I'm going to pull their about section. You go to their about section, and it's like, something has gone wrong with the family. Too many institutions that should be sounding the alarm are silent, captured by short-term partisan ideology. Our mission is to strengthen marriage and family life and advance the welfare of children. As if through the welfare of children, you're literally advocating for people to stop giving kids medication. Through research and public engagement, known for objective and incisive studies that attract attention and respect from across the ideological spectrum. Yes, because people keep quoting this without realizing it's conservative propaganda. IFS programs focus on marriage, child well-being, family formation, parenting, and the role of technology in family life. Bro, this quote-unquote family first, also no, it's not surprise that so many people here are white. Yes, it's a very obvious type of family that is being strengthened here as what should be forced upon all of us. These are the people that turn around and get quoted in articles. Here, I can just show you an example. Institute. It would help if I could spell, actually. For Family Studies. Let's just go to news. Yeah, look at this. Hold on. I'm going to see if I can find. Okay. Oh, here we go. WAPO citing them, for example. Reason Magazine, which I would imagine is some kind of cringe pro. Actually, I don't even want to think about what kind of reason they're advocating for here. But yes, things like this originating here and then winding up in the Washington Post. The very same talking points winding up in freaking Men's Journal, etc. This is just one think tank. IFP gets a little bit of clout. There are these other family research think tanks as well, and they basically get funding from people who are interested in pushing this as a narrative. And if we're not seeing how obvious this is, I don't really know how we're ever going to get to the bottom of this. For this video, I didn't even bother tracking down every single one that was talking about this. Oh, here we are in the Wall Street Journal. Washington Post, Wall Street Journal. I mean, again, I don't expect anything from WAPO or WSJ. Those are both trash rags at this point. But like, then you turn around and you cite the Wall Street Journal in a Guardian article or this, that, the other. And it's just, it shouldn't really be this easy for talking points that are rooted in hatred and stripping women of their autonomy and absolving men of all of their responsibility to wind up becoming dominant cultural talking points. And if we weren't just incessantly focused on viewing the world through these ridiculous goggles, I don't think it would take up so much space and take space away from actual important conversations like the Slate one that talk about resources and people's means and class and the way that actually plays into this. So I guess this has been a very ranty video, and I'm not sorry, but like, I do definitely recognize that, but this just pisses me off as a man. It does. I think if I as a man am actually upset about anything, it's literally the idea that like people are so deeply interested in weaponizing things that actually genuinely are not problems. It pisses me off so bad. Someone said I was having an off day, so this actually helps me place my anger somewhere. F this article. F this entire industrial complex of creepy pro quote unquote family, but really it's like pro everybody should have more children think tanks winding up creating these mainstream talking points, because I'm genuinely over it. Also, I got so mad I almost forgot to mention Tom Holland, and this is in a positive way, but like, if you're asking this to any, I want to say, reasonable person, they will immediately redirect this idea of there being a gender-based loneliness epidemic to an actual society-wide one. For example, Tom Holland was doing press a few weeks ago for the new Spider-Man movie, and he got asked this question by IGN. Gonna turn the volume up so you guys can actually hear.
And dramatize that. There's been a lot of talk about the idea of a male loneliness epidemic recently, and Brand New Day certainly picks up with Peter at his most lonely. How are Peter, Frank, and Ned relating to that idea of loneliness? And what is Brand New Day?
It's such an L for this contrived issue to wind up so far up the public consciousness that we're now asking Hollywood actors in interviews. What do you think about the male loneliness epidemic? But you know what? I greatly appreciate Tom's answer.
But for me, I really hope the movie can serve as a beacon of hope to young people that, you know, there's
Wait, hold on. Run that back. Young what? Say that one more time, Tom.
serve as a beacon of hope to young people that, you know, that
People, not men.
there's real bravery in asking for help, and there's nothing more important than friends, family, and leaning on the people that you love.
Yeah,
Beautiful answer. Literally shoot it down. Don't even engage with this as an actual thing that exists. Acknowledge that loneliness is real. Men are people and so are women. And hopefully me being Spider-Man can help everybody feel better. Like, it's not everybody. And I think shutting it down in this way is maybe the best way we could go about all of this. I think most of my takes on the male loneliness thing, I do still get a big kick out of calling it the male skill issue epidemic, because there's a certain genre, there's a certain font of man that actually genuinely is responsible for a lot of the loneliness that we're dealing with here. Like, for example, Andrew Tate supporters do push-ups to protest him, you know, being arrested once again. Rapist Andrew Tate. You've literally got men out here. Oh, you can see them in the background of this TikTok doing push-ups to outside of Andrew Tate's jail to protest his arrest. This protest was joined by the likes of Fresh and Fit podcast co-host Myron Gaines, always found at the scene of the crime, and Justin Waller, who both appear in the Netflix documentary Inside the Manosphere earlier this year. Ew, right? I do think the vast majority of my criticism for this male loneliness garbage is just focused on shooting down people like this, because this is insane. Why do you think nobody wants to interact with us? But like, obviously that's also just an extreme, and the truth of the matter is actually a lot more nuanced. It's a lot more complex. It's a lot more intersectional between all genders, and it has more to do with other factors. So I just wanted to get into those today while venting, because it makes me feel less crazy. This has all been an exercise in me trying to feel sane. Thanks for joining. What do y'all have anything that you want to add to this before I wrap this up? I actually really enjoyed this one. I really, really did. Someone says, never have I been so happy to not live in Self-Flow to witness this. Yeah, if I saw that, I would just go back inside for the day, actually. Like, it doesn't matter where I was headed. I'm like, okay, I'm actually just going home. I don't think I was meant to be outside today. So I'm so done. Yeah, no, what is this push-up protest? It's like something from a bad SNL skit. Someone said, never been drier is my new insult. Yeah, somebody said, I've never been more dry. Ladies, take note and avoid these men. Someone said this was a good one. Thank you. I felt like this was a good one. It wasn't even super structured. I wanted it to just be more free-flowing, because I could not possibly structure my thoughts on this. Or if I did, it would take literally forever. Also, I'm not putting this in the video because I think it's going to make people's brains explode, but as a non-binary man, womp, 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 there's another layer of complexity here for me. Which is that even society's attempt to put all of this dude energy onto me or whatever, that actually has like, it causes me a lot of other types of pain and reactions that have more to do with my actual gender than anything else. Like, I'm literally getting so uncomfortable. I'm stimming, I'm wringing my hands. Yeah, no, as an NB dude, I'm also just kind of like, y'all know that this isn't real in the first place, right? Guys, my fellow men, my fellow homies, listen, I don't need you all to be as non-binary as I am, but you do realize these things that we're aspiring to are social constructs that exist as ideas, but should never exist as rules for how we are allowed to live our lives, right? Hopefully. No, just me. Okay. It pisses me off so bad. If someone said it's all made up, it's so very deeply made up. Like, for example, the way I'd like to put it, because it's just very simple. Your actual gender is real, but the idea that gender should dictate who you are as a person isn't real. That's not a thing, actually, but alas, we were so very far removed from accepting that as a common line of thinking. So I chose not to focus today on a very, like, why are we even talking about masculinity as if it actually exists? But I'm just gonna say it. There's no such thing as masculinity the way men think about it. It exists as a social phenomena that is observable and has a lot of negative consequences, but really, like, there's no singular element of masculinity that is unique to masculinity and therefore must be applied as a standard to other people if you're a man. You can be masculine and not be a man. You could be masculine sometimes and not other times. You could be, masculinity is something you can genuinely just kind of do with it what you will. It's not a rule for life. And it's certainly not a set of behaviors that I think we should all be holding ourselves to or trying to uproot or whatever. Definitely not the bad behaviors or the good behaviors. The good ones are just being a good person. So yeah. Womp, womp, womp. Someone said masculinity is a drag category. Masculinity is when you're voguing and you're trying to make sure you're in the right category. To me, look, I'm in too deep, honestly. When I think masculine, I literally only think external presentation. That's the only thing it means to me right now. Like, some of the things that I'm doing right now, I consider to be quote unquote masculine. But not really. Or like, I have friends, for example, who are like trans mask, but that's not because they have an inherent sort of set of personality traits that dictates they must be masculine or label themselves that way. It's just because that's what their gender identity is, and that's what makes them comfortable. That's how they actually are and look. So they do this type of thing. It doesn't have anything to do with anything that we looked at in today's article. but no one agrees with me that the gender is just it's on God on the outside. It's an internal feeling and an external expression of that feeling, and it's between you and you. And the world should never have an opinion on your gender, is how I feel personally. Someone said, I'm masculine and a woman. I'm also feminine. So many people think it's a contradiction. The only way it would be a contradiction is if, again, it's a set of rules, but it's a tool. That's what it is more than anything. Someone said, people trying to police how other people live their lives when it literally doesn't affect them at all. People just want to be hateful towards everyone who's a little different. It's painful to see, honestly. Someone said, I don't think there's masculine and feminine traits. We're all just people. Yeah, no. Internal, like behaviorally, we're just people, bro. Talk to some people, please. Someone said baking cakes and you're alive. Oh, that sounds good. Anyways, I think I'm gonna wrap it here. Not the whole stream. Actually, I want to talk a little bit after this. Actually, I want to share sad news after the stream, not involving me, but entertainment news. But first, everybody say goodbye. And I'm gonna say, someone said every gender is a xenogender. I agree. I'm gonna record an outro real fast, but say goodbye. God, I had so much fun. I had so much fun doing this stream, actually. All right. Anyways, usually at the end of my streams, I say, that's all I have to say. No, I could talk about this topic until the cows come home. It's one of the biggest things I think about because, well, it's actually quite terrifying. But you know what? That's all I have to say for now. hopefully you got something out of this or just felt a little less crazy along with me. But yeah, I recorded this video live right here on YouTube, where I stream quite frequently Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays at 12 p.m. Eastern time, unless of course I don't, in which case I'm probably just, I don't know, sleeping. But yeah, hopefully I catch you in the next stream or the next video, and if not, it doesn't matter at all. Okay, bye. Okay, we're good. Oof. Okay. No, I have really sad news, chat. Did you hear about Hayden Panettiere? It just happened. It literally just happened. Make sure I spell her name correctly. Oh, I didn't. Sorry. Yeah, she passed away at age 36. I mean, it's obviously sad for so many reasons. She was very iconic though. Like, a lot of roles that actually kind of meant a lot to me. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen Bug's Life. When she was a kid, she voiced that character. She also, Kyrie has had multiple voice actors, but I'm pretty sure that, yeah, Hayden Panettiere also voiced Kyrie from Kingdom Hearts, which is also a role that I think is so amazing. But yeah, no, I was really sad to see that at 36, honestly. Someone said I didn't believe it at first. Yeah, I wasn't expecting the info, and I really had to, like, wait, who? I wasn't thinking of that as a possibility, but yeah, that was very unfortunate. Someone says she spoke up on abuse in the industry. Yeah, no, she was a person, and so she had ups, downs, etc. But I feel like she did a lot of good, or at least it was, you could see her struggles and journeys over the years and stuff like that. But someone says she's so young and has been in this industry for such a long time. Yeah, and I'm kind of bringing this up softly to say, one thing I saw when I was in threads reading, just people sending, well wishes to her family and just expressing their sadness and stuff. But somebody had basically said, why is it that like some child stars are fine and other ones are not? And then somebody was like, well, where are the child stars who were fine? And everybody kept listening to the same people. And they were like, oh, Zendaya's fine. And I don't know, Macaulay Culkin turned his life around. And they were listing like all these people who seem like well-adjusted or whatever. But I think what this low-key reminded me is of two things. Number one, you literally never know if somebody's fine. You can't look at somebody who is famous and assume that because you're getting a version of their life that they're comfortable showing you, that means they're well adjusted and childhood stardom was actually fine in their case. We don't know if Zendaya is okay. We don't know if these people are like, that's not a thing. I feel this idea of like, we have some people who are able to make it and some people who are not. And the second thing I was thinking too was just like, we've got to stop this childhood star thing in general, because it's just, even when these people are fine, it's like, at what risk? You know what I mean? Or at what cost? I just think like, usually when we talk about childhood stars who are okay, they've always had a period of like struggling with these things or being introduced to things that were like so dangerous for them. Hayden Panettiere has literally spoken up about like abuse that she experienced in the industry. And I'm seeing articles about like, Hollywood failed Hayden Panettiere, which is true, obviously. But like, I don't know. I'm just sad. I'm just sad. And then another thing I saw somebody say, which I was just kind of like, wow, was that they are now, the commenter is now old enough to where when they read about people passing away in the news, they can't automatically assume that that person is older than them. And I was just kind of like, damn. I mean, she was older than me, but like, I guess I'm realizing now how young these ages are. I think when I was younger, I didn't know what 36 really meant. I didn't really know what like 40 meant, and I'm still only turning 28, but like, I don't know. I had a lot of feelings about that. But obviously, the majority of my sympathy, this goes to her daughter. You know what I mean? I'm just really sorry that this has happened. Truly. Reading chat, reading chat. Some of these poor child stars. Yeah, no, like that's just not an okay thing to do to a kid. It results in you having a lot of privileges in some aspects, but that's not enough to take away from the other thing that is also true. That's just it's so bad. Someone in chat said kidfluencers are basically the new child stars, and it's incredibly sad to see. Yeah, kind of setting aside this talk about Hayden, obviously the only thing I have to say is respectfully, I'm just sorry that this happened, but just in general, kind of talking more so about kids who are currently famous, and yes, most of them being like YouTubers or like TikTok people or whatever. I will literally never ever buy into the notion that YouTube is not currently completely backwards, or social media in general is not currently completely backwards when it comes to how kids are allowed to be used in content. Point blank period. If you're documenting something that is illegal, your YouTube channel should be taken down. I'm not talking about stupid things that don't matter. Like if you're a weed channel and you're talking about weed and it happens to be illegal, take your channel down. No. If you're doing things that are actually genuinely harmful, you're on camera committing harm, you shouldn't have a platform. And I feel like all of the people running channels where their kids are the stars are documenting themselves being abusive. You're literally documenting yourself forcing child labor. Because if there's a sponsorship in that video, you signed a contract that your child has to do work. That's child labor. That's not legal. Just because you feel like it's a loophole because you're doing it on social media. And so that's just how I feel like these channels shouldn't exist. We shouldn't even have family channels that use their kids in this way. We definitely shouldn't have channels that don't even have adults on them at all. It's just like, oh, the 12-year-old, she's famous or whatever. This is insane. And I'm very much over that. Some said 8 passengers. That's an example of how horrifically it can go. When will y'all like actually understand that kids are people, not resources? I don't know. I think even though I'm at my big age of 28 or whatever, chat, I actually still feel really traumatized over being seen as a resource when I was a kid. Like, on God, like actually genuinely. I think that's why I've literally had to confront myself of like, why do I get such strong feelings about this? Is this normal to react so strongly? And that's when I realized like, oh yeah, I'm horrified by what I'm seeing, but I'm also sad about me. I think sadly in many ways I was viewed the same way when I was going to do this to kids, whether that's with like your academic performance or trying to force some kind of dream onto it's not always happening on like YouTube or like in a way that other people could easily identify, but it's a real sad entitlement that I think a lot of adults have towards children of like, well, you exist, so you must perform for me. And it's like, damn, I just wanted a childhood. So yeah, just hard no to all of that. Also, if you want to make content for kids, you don't got to use kids to do this. Miss Rachel comes to mind. I'm not getting weird child exploitation vibes from her, and yet she's still doing what she does for the kiddos. Like, just you wanting to essentially run a children's entertainment, whatever, should not be the problem of a bunch of children or one specific child that you are constantly putting this sort of pressure on is how I feel. Oh, wow. Someone in chat said, as a trans person, I'd die if I had videos of child me pre-transition online everywhere. Okay, that's actually a really big deal as well, though, because when you are a child, you didn't finish loading. It's like a video game. You know how they show a black screen as a video game's loading, and it might have a little loading bar in the bottom. Do you guys know what's happening behind that black screen? The game is trying to render everything. It's trying to finish. That way, when it takes the screen away and it shows you, you're looking around and you're like, wow, this is so beautiful. It doesn't look beautiful before it finishes loading. And that is low-key how I feel about this whole childhood experience being broadcast online. You are essentially stripping away your child's built-in loading screen that they are entitled to. Every child should get an 18-year-long black loading screen that the world has no input into how they are forming and becoming themselves. But you as a parent are very disgustingly deciding to go behind the curtain and being like, oh, here's my 6-year-old. Look what they're doing. Here's my 12-year-old. And you're doing this. It's not like you're trying to show something cute. You're doing this again and again and again and again. You literally, you're robbing your child of that formative experience that they should have of figuring things out, and you're immortalizing them in an unfinished state that very well could conflict with who they are later. That's pretty ugly to do. It's not right. It's really, really not. Reading chat. So I kind of love that metaphor. Yeah, off the dome. It's really how it feels. Of like, just let these damn kids be kids, bro. We don't need to see them. Kids don't need kids, I guess, to be like entertained. That shouldn't be at the expense of other ones. I don't know. Go have your friends at school and stuff. You don't need Ryan's toy review to be your internet friend. If you want to review kids' toys, do it yourself, mom and dad. Come on now. Pisses me off. Blah, 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 blah. Someone says, I agree. Now I have to spend my 20s decluttering everyone else's input that has nothing to do with me at all. Yeah, I think there's that's a pretty big thing for a lot of people, for real. Someone says no one even knows how I looked as a child, thankfully. And that should be the ideal. Your community that's helping you and caring for you should be there for you. And really, nobody else should be privy to a lot of these things, is how I feel about that. But anyways, I don't want to sound like a broken record. And I absolutely do not want to sound like a doomer. But I'm saying in a non-pessimistic way. I'm so aware how many bad and sad stories keep cropping up. I don't I don't want to sound like naive. I don't want to sit here and sound like I think the world has always been sunshine and rainbows, and the news is always all good things and people having fun instead of, losing their lives or whatever. No, what I'm trying to get at is you cannot convince me otherwise. This year, actually right now, we're just in a streak of back to back really random, terrible things happening. Or like something will happen and then it'll take a left turn for the worst possible version of itself. And I think I have such a fear of like sounding like just one of those doomer content creators. It's like the world is pain and suffering all the time, and that's not what I'm doing. But I do just feel like I have to say, like, God, what is with these? What's going on right now? What is going on right now, man? I'm genuine. Someone said it's so weird. It's genuinely weird, and I'm over it. I don't know. Someone said no, but I don't know if it's just my depression, but it's also been turbo crappy lately. If you've been feeling this way, maybe this is how I'll say it. It's not just you. I think that's a better way of putting it. I can't definitively tell you what is or is not happening, even though as part of my job, I actually do ingest large portions of what is happening, and things are objectively worse right now than they usually are. But if you've been feeling weird about this, it's literally not just you. Yeah, just absolutely not it. Anyways, I will leave you with a positive though, because that's just an absolutely cringe way to end the stream. Actually, this isn't a positive. This is just funny. I'm going to leave you with, did y'all hear about the Cocomelon movie? I, on God, thought this was a joke. If y'all don't know who Cocomelon is, you're blessed. You've been blessed by somebody. Cocomelon is like, they're literally one of the biggest channels on the actual freaking platform. They have, and I can't stress this enough. I want to pause this. I don't want audio. 200 million subscribers. Excuse me. And so I guess whoever runs the Cocomelon YouTube channel, which my only perception of Cocomelon is as brain rot. I don't like this is just brain rot. Obviously they were like, we got to make a Cocomelon movie, so they teamed up with, I think it's literally Universal Pictures, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I am mistaken. Okay, I might have made that part up. Hold on, who is releasing the Cocomelon movie? I don't want AI to answer me. Oh, it's literally Universal Pictures. It's literally Universal Pictures is now releasing Cocomelon the movie featuring, I don't know, it still looks just as, wait, I want to mute this. It still looks just as bad as the animation. I mean, I don't want to be like mean towards animators, but Cocomelon has always had a very garish, uncanny look to them, which it doesn't seem like they were interested in changing up. But yeah. Someone said they're trying to compete with Paw Patrol. It's very much giving trying to compete with Paw Patrol. If anything, I'm weirdly surprised that I didn't even think about this happening. Like, I should have expected this. Cocomelon's huge for some reason, so obviously doing something like this makes a type of sense. But and we get this poster, which is so funny because I'm just like, bro, don't look at me. Why is bro looking at us like this is my problem? That we're now living in a world where we have the Cocomelon movie. I see a lot of people asking about SZA. Yeah, I guess SZA is contributing music to the Cocomelon movie. Is she in it? Oh, she's also in it. Who is SZA in the Cocomelon movie? I'm being so for real right now. Wait. These characters are on God, all children. They're toddlers. Or I guess it's like the characters they meet along the way, I guess is where SZA could be. I'm sorry, I haven't watched this trailer, and I'm literally not going to. Josh Johnson, Ego Nwodim, Nicholas Hoult, they have some really good actors in here, or comedians, but like, what the hell are Sarah Sherman? What are we doing here? SZA in the Cocomelon movie. That's what I'm gonna. And someone said at least it's not AI, and at least it's not AI. With that, I'll catch y'all later. Thank you so much for joining. Goodbye. All right. Gonna end the stream.